This video is dumb. This video is stupid. This video is the culmination of an extremely silly experiment I conducted over the past few days. To present a fully salient metaphor related to the nature of experimentation, may I briefly present to you this video's hook in the form of the scientific method. Let's begin with my observation. All of my coworkers are cuckoo for friendslop's puffs, and boy howdy do I keep getting invited to play video games in a social setting, which is literally my nightmare. Game time is me time. My full-time critical health insurance conveying job requires me to constantly be, quote-unquote, on in a social sense. So when I get to play my precious little video games, I desperately do not want to consider the indelible weight of the social contract, especially when the characters are this gosh darn goofy. Next, the question. Can you play these games single player? And I don't mean just in a literal yes or no sense, that's way too easy. I mean, are these games truly realized experiences even if they diverge from the cooperative multiplayer trappings present throughout? For further context, in my previous upload, I waxed poetic about developer intentions regarding optimal experiences and if it is possible to play a game wrong. I wrestled with the notion that games are products purchased by consumers, meaning that any experience a player can muster is at minimum developer allowed. After ample rumination, I concluded that players cannot play a game wrong due to the tactile freedom players wield to dictate the pace of their own experiences. However, while you cannot play a game wrong, you can experience a game wrong by diverging from a developer's vision. In this video, I want to stretch the blessing of allowance granted by these developers for allowing these single-player experiences, and I ultimately want to weigh those experiences on their own merits to determine if these games stand up to my tomfoolery. And those of you who completed your elementary school science classes know what's next. That's the hypothesis, or for those of you still in elementary school or have suffered from the great mental cloud brought upon by the novel TikTok virus, an educated guess. My education was predicated on more than a few guesses, so what's one more? I hypothesized that the single-player experiences present, while sharing the core mechanics of these games, will drastically differ from their multiplayer peers' modes in their level of difficulty and optimal strategies. And now, to lay out the experiment and its steps. First, I will play 7 of the current most popular quote-unquote friendslop games on the market. Then I will tell you about those experiences in each game's dedicated video segment. Finally, in our conclusion, if I decide this bit is still remotely funny, we will look at all games in totality to determine generic trends and review my final thoughts. But before we begin with our experiment portion, we must first take a moment to review our terms. Primarily, what the hell is friendslop anyway? The word slop is getting a lot of play these days. Slop is used to define numerous aspects of our all too digitized lives. From the put that content slop in my trough daddy to piss-filtered uncanny images your least favorite uncle is generating to prove vile points about the nature of society, it is vital to note slop the word is multifaceted and critically context-dependent. While not always negative, I personally struggle to separate the word from its most cynical and dire use cases. What I mean is that as long as generative artificial intelligence images and videos continue to proliferate my periphery, then the word slop will always carry massive 2-month vacation rich girl baggage. And for those in the know, that's a lot of baggage. With my feelings cards now placed gingerly face up on this 5-card studs table, I can now talk about today's genre focus, friendslop. A name I find dismissive and inherently critical for no good reason, but allow my misgivings to now fully fall to the wayside as we pick apart operation style what makes friendslop, well, friendslop. Friendslop is a word used to describe cooperative multiplayer games with a major focus on social dynamics. While each game is its own beautiful God's eyes perfect creation, there are similarities which proliferate the majority of the genre. Number 1, these games are best played with a group of friends or willing goober strangers. Number 2, conceptually these games are not too deep with simple gameplay loops and straightforward mechanics. Number 3, they're all just a little bit jank. This jank creates a not too serious, free-flowing fun time fugue state. Number 4, a regular focus on game physics, either in the worlds the players occupy or the players' ragdoll-like characters. Number 5, these games exist to create situations where coworkers badger you to purchase the game specifically for bonding and dumb shit like that. This is a joke. Number 6, The price of these games is usually under $15 to $20, with sale prices dipping even lower. This enables your coworkers to not feel bad about badgering. There are other elements like extraction modes, proximity chat, and in-game time limits, but these are not as ubiquitous as their peers. In short, friendslop is the name of a genre of cooperative multiplayer games with heavy social focus that are inexpensive, accessible, and just a little bit jank. Whether or not the term friendslop is positive or negative depends heavily on the individual exercising the terminology and the context of the larger conversation. For our purposes today, the term is neither positive nor negative. It simply just is. You know what they say, as above, so below, and by they I mean Baphomet and John Eric Dowdle. That's my hook. That's my joke for this segment. I hope you liked it. P.E.K and Pratfall serve as a perfect pairing of games both in a thematic sense but also in overall presentation. But just because I've lumped these two elevation-oriented dandies into the same line item does not mean that all things are equal. In P.E.K, players are tasked with navigating roguelike mountainsides, and in Pratfall the exact opposite is true. Players must circumnavigate the opposite mountain, also known as the Earth's crust. In both games, players are tasked with maximizing their distance covered by utilizing a slew of fun items. Of course, the shape and purpose of these items morph to fit each game's appropriate set dressing, but their functionalities when stripped from the up-down dichotomy artifice are practically indistinguishable. Both games feature enormously goofy, colorful characters whose ragdoll limbs flutter to and fro, and whose sweet baby saccharine faces contrast against the rather challenging task at hand. Controls of these sweet little goober idiots are functionally identical, with each game offering a slight twist on the overall mechanical presentation, with P.E.K offering context-sensitive climbing controls, and Pratfall inverting this soccer star's pyramid with context-sensitive mining. But here our woods diverge into yellow, #Coldplay, #relatable. P.E.K and Pratfall differ considerably in regards to this video's thesis/scientific method hook, i.e., how are these games as single-player adventures? Let's start with Pratfall because I have a whole lot less to comment on. Pratfall is a comparatively relaxed venture based entirely on the player's ability to interface with the pacing. Gravity occasionally is a trickster's mistress with deathly occult eyes and swerving big traffic hips, and boy can she drop it. But largely I found myself experiencing a far more hangout-intensive venture in Pratfall's Mines and Caverns. To show some of my big Richards Games criticism energy, Pratfall as a single-player journey is pretty boring. The intermittent spikes of interest in a vacuum are sufficient to keep my gamer's heart doki-doking to my own eccentric drum. I played 7 games for this video, and Pratfall's best tricks are poor imitations of its peers. Single-player conclusion. Totally fine, but almost certainly lacking without a group of gremlin idiots. That's what I refer to friends as in certain contexts, throwing literal dynamite down the mine shaft. My review of P.E.K can be found in the game's title, but I'm sure you want more. Believe me, they all do. P.E.K is a phenomenally interesting game even if you restrict yourself to having no friends, or at minimum refusing to speak to those friends for self-imposed idiot reasons. P.E.K is a hyper-strategic puzzle game that does its damnedest to convince you that isn't the case. In all elements of gameplay, there is consideration for the way the game's mechanics interweave between seemingly disparate elements. There's a shocking amount of depth present in the game world, the items, and the strategies players must invoke to ascend. P.E.K is enormously rewarding to sink your thick, meaty gamer hooks into, but be warned, underneath the depth, intrigue, and banging mechanics is a brutally tough game about testing limits and implementing both short and long-term goals in service of achieving an ultimate prize. Single-player conclusion. Excellent. Tons of fun with equal parts reward and challenge. Super Battle Golf is quite the departure from the rest of the games featured in this video. Originally, when I crafted my game's covered list, SBG was NIS. That's nowhere in sight. But the Steam store page algorithm really put in some extra work for that sweet sexy commission because SBG was FOLEGCSP, or featured on literally every game's covered store page. Don't let anyone tell you guys like me don't fall prey to peer pressure or advertising because I fell directly into an immediately regrettable purchase. As a single player outing, SBG is RQP, that is really quite poor, and also that is TLTIWDT, or the last time I will do that, IS. In multiplayer, Super Battle Golf's gimmick is that between strokes, players collect Mario Kart-style battle items to distract, depose, or dismantle their foes. These items solely exist to interfere with multiplayer competition and do not augment the individual player's personal golfing skills such as speed, power, or accuracy. These three things are innate and immutable. When single player tackling the green, players are treated to a bare bones golfing experience that pales in comparison to basically all of its peers. If anything, the self-imposed single-player mode does more work for every other golf game than it does for itself, by fully showing why most games in the genre just warp you to where the shot lands. Of course, in multiplayer, this running to and fro to each hit shot is a perfect opportunity to wake chaos upon unsuspecting gamer-brained idiots, which is another term I use interchangeably with friends. You may have noted that I have mentioned the multiplayer mode of this game much more frequently than the others. This is entirely because I feel so bad for so thoroughly butchering this game's fun factor and want viewers to understand in specific terms that my hyper-gooberified high-concept YouTube video hook is not a definitive 50 cal perfect sniper shot into this game's beating digital heart. The multiplayer seems perfectly reasonable and enticing. In fact, I briefly logged into an open lobby to try and fully prove this assertion. However, as humor would have it, the first thing I was met with was not high-octane golf battle gameplay, but was instead a grown-ass man yelling the fuck word a whole bunch, and I immediately dipped.
Yeah, man, that's the fucking game, bro. Shut the fuck up, bro.
Single-player verdict. Less than bare-bones golfing action with too much fluff. Just don't waste your time without buddies or a willingness to have a bulletproof public lobby-ready soul. In my earlier explanation of what exactly friendslop is, I intentionally avoided mentioning one other optional element which is a regular fixture of this style of game: the horror. As we have seen by the first 4 games on this list, horror is not necessarily a structurally integral pillar of the genre, but it is a regular fixture as far as set dressing and tone. I believe horror pairs wonderfully with multiplayer cooperative gaming because, well, with friends, minor to major fears can be conquered. This is a snippet into my personal beliefs about life, but also a reflection of this vivid gaming reality. Also, it's very funny when your friends let out little coward squeals. Nothing better exemplifies this idea than when a group of buddies watch me play Baldi's Basics blind. If this session would have been recorded, I would have more money than Markiplier because boy howdy, I was ready to cry. With that in mind, regular viewers will know that I am a sweet, sweet simple boy who has the constitution of a wet Kleenex, the constitution of a hot dog bun that has been doused in 4 types of mustard, the constitution of the Los Angeles Chargers offensive line. R.I.P. Herbert, you fuck, go Bears and Birds. You get it, I'm weak. I'm so jittery, jumpy, and full-blown freak to the absolute maximum that I can hardly turn a corner in these games without actually physically revolting against the notion of sitting down in a chair. I'm a fighter. I will not sit and go lightly. These monsters are not gonna get me. With all that said, I have to do my due diligence and cover some of the mainstays of the horror-adjacent cooperative multiplayer games genre. If you feel the compulsion to comment that these games actually aren't that scary, may I please refer you to the previous paragraph. Let's begin. Hello, scary games. Hello, my personal hell. R.E.P.O has the unique distinction of being the only game on this list I have played with other people, unless of course you count my approximately 10 seconds of public lobby golfing featuring big grown men yelling the fuck word.
Yeah, man, that's the fucking game, bro. Shut the fuck up, bro.
Which of course you don't because you're a sensible person. R.E.P.O is proof that I am not so misanthropic to not spend my personal time socializing with my coworkers. And ironically, if it wasn't for their insistence in this genre in conjunction with the peer pressure purchasing power of R.E.P.O, I likely would not have felt the compulsion to see this video's vision through to fruition. Despite my roughly 2.5 hours of multiplayer experience, I will stick to the bit and talk about my single-player experience only. R.E.P.O is a game about extracting fabulous, ungainly, hyper-valuable artifacts from monster-infested haunted houses. Each level is procedurally generated with a collection of relics and unique creature threats. Between levels, players access a shop phase to purchase weapons, items, health, and statistical upgrades. The existence of a shop phase completely warps the way that the average player will likely approach R.E.P.O. You see, in each level in the top right corner, there is a threshold of cold hard cash players need to appease their corrupt employer's grotesque avarice. However, there's a give and take present in this expectation. If things are looking dire, extract yourself out of that mess, or feel free to gamble on finding more treasures to make more money to buy more upgrades to make the future levels easier. Of course, greed is a wicked virtue, and overconfidence in this case is often an immediate and insidious killer. R.E.P.O requires a good amount of trial and error to get a feel for the way things function in context. For example, I purchased some grenades but had no clue how to pull the pin and got absolutely murked by a wandering posse of devilish garden gnomes. That's life, I guess. Each enemy interacts with the surroundings in different ways and has different strategies which best govern an informed player's approach. But becoming an informed player takes time, and players intent on experiencing R.E.P.O blind will almost certainly bash their brains against the great wall of trial and error. I personally don't mind this type of learn on the fly then apply lessons learned in future runs type of gameplay, but I don't think it would be crazy to assume more type A chatters would find some of these deaths unfair or downright ludicrous. I don't know if the term skill expression is correct here, but there definitely is a skill floor which represents a baseline competence necessary for single player looting runs. Whether or not you personally have that type of patience or find this trial by fire style gameplay interesting will likely determine the shape of your enjoyment. On the topic of the horror stuff, I can say confidently that my exposure to this game initially in the multiplayer medium aided in allowing me the mental and spiritual composition required to not fill my boxer briefs all the way with everything, if you catch my drift. Alternatively, maybe this game just isn't that scary, it's just pretty dark. Or maybe even a more worthwhile consideration is that by playing scary games for this channel I am now a big, strong, solid oak of a man. Single player verdict. Difficult for sure and requires ample trial and error to appropriately engage with threats and make progress. Still very fun and interesting though. So, fun fact about me becoming a big, strong, solid oak man. I lied. That's not true. Not even close. What the hell? Content warning made me regret having regrets. Content warning is just too damn spooky for me. I want to capture this feeling in the moments directly following my exposure to the bad times. I want to keep this feeling alight like a flame in a wizard's hearth, or the woodsman's lantern and over the garden wall. I want to explicitly tell you what happened that made me realize that I am not as hard-boiled as I want you to believe. To deliver this feeling in retrospect, but still while the wound is flushed with viscera, I am going to post-commentary walk us through my feelings of my singular and final single-player run of Content Warning. Hello and welcome to my first and only run of Content Warning, a very scary game that's made for people who have constitutions much stronger than me. The purpose of this walkthrough is to show you exactly what happened during this run, and to prove once and for all that I'm way too scared for silly things like this. Whenever you get into this pod, things are really bright and colorful, but the moment you land it becomes clear that things are not what they seem. The colors get much starker, much darker, and then you see this landscape of horror. It's just, this isn't right, man. So I was met with a wave of not quite insecurity, not quite fear, but if there's a word that exists to describe a feeling where you've lost all your confidence all at once, that's how I would describe this. This is one of the benefits of not looking too deeply in the games before I play them. I had no clue that the graphical style shifted like this, and I immediately started slowly crawling through this landscape. My eyes were drawn to this building, of course, so that's where I headed. For the uninitiated, the purpose of this game is to record footage of scary things down in a scary land. In the top left corner, you can see there are 3 days left, and we need to get 3,000 views. We need to film something scary. On the right side, we can see the battery percentage of our flashlight, how to use it, and in the bottom right are items. As of now, I have $0, a camera, and this flashlight, and I really don't want to go down these stairs, but I'm gonna have to. Each of these steps really rings out with a sort of metallic clang and it cuts through the silence. Also, it's getting darker as I go down, and I know that my flashlight has a battery on it. I'm uncertain how long this run is going to be, so I'm not using it, and that's a mistake. Because I get around the corner and I see a big flash of light here, and I immediately I pause the game. I turn the game down, as you can see, to really low, so I don't get jolted or scared by anything. But as you can see, I'm unwilling to round these corners because I'm scared out of my gourd. That's a door there on the left, but I thought it was a creature. I'm trying to make out if I was correct on that assumption. I realize it's a door. I turn around and I decide I'm gonna leave. I don't want anything to do with that. I'm going back to the top to a more open area, and I'm going to be a-okay. Oh my fucking I thought that happened later. I jumped. So as you can see in the game, I immediately skittered to the top corner. I'll replay that for you. I skittered to the top corner. Yeah. Fuck you. Okay, I got scared again. And then the motherfucker stole my camera. He stole my camera. You know whenever something startles you so bad, you have to pause the game? Well, I paused the game, regroup myself, unpause, and then that skittery freak stole my camera. I got scared again, so he double dipped my ass. Frankly, I got double dipped, and that's not cool. And I get brave here for some reason. I pull out my flashlight, and I'm like, I'm gonna go get my camera. That mofo took my camera. I need that to get views. I can't just return to the top. And then I see these motherfuckers. And then they start charging me. I'm trying to get a good look at what they are, and there we go. I've been captured by the slug man. I don't know how to get out of the slug man. I'm pressing WASD. I'm swinging my camera, and he lets me go directly in front of this other creature, which at this moment I can't really make out because he's attacking me, and I didn't get a great view whenever they were walking towards me earlier, but we will see here in a moment. He doesn't quite kill me. I get captured. It's just a comedy of errors. It's a comedy of errors. Now my flashlight is completely empty. I don't have my camera. I am stuck in the slug, and we've all been there. We've all been stuck in the slug. And then I noticed that, oh, what a jump. He's gamer god moment there. He's still coming for me. We see there for a fraction of a moment that was a snail creature, and I could have sworn the stairs were there. And watching it back as well, I feel like the stairs were there. I'm so turned around, even in retrospect. I walk into this room embracing the idea that I could die at any moment, and I sit and I get just what I think's a really cool shot to only return to where I was because I don't know where else I can possibly go. This is a dead end. We arrive back, and I get slugged again. Oh my goodness. I get slugged again. And then I get popped out. And then we get a real good look at this guy. This is a real cool guy. It's a shame he hurts you because he has big friend energy. And I guess I didn't realize that he's the one who hurt me last time because I walked right back into him, and then he killed me. He killed me. And that was my first run, and again, only run of content warning. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. Single player verdict. Very scary. If you're into that.
Congratulations, you won. No, wait, the show is over.
In the same way we cannot view Pratfall without the context of Peak, we cannot appreciate YapYap without first playing R.E.P.O. On paper, other than their genres, YapYap and R.E.P.O are not that similar, but surprisingly, their diametric opposition regarding moment-to-moment tactics makes them the perfect pair. I know I would not have arrived at this conclusion if I had not played R.E.P.O first and experienced the spine shock of shattering an expensive martini glass that would have resulted in clearing a level. R.E.P.O is about preserving artifacts with careful game physics 3D space navigation. The more you knock about these treasures, the less they're worth. In YapYap, you must raise hell. Destroying artifacts is the name of the game because this colossal Mactonite moon-freak god is judging your ability to create unmitigated chaos. YapYap continues the trend of roguelite progression and procedurally generated levels. However, the way players interact with threats in those levels is a wild departure from any game I've played before. I've had to omit a slew of embarrassing gameplay from this overview because I, for the life of me, couldn't figure out how to use any of my spells. I was so befuddled after slamming literally every sensible key on my rainbow light-up gamer girl keyboard that I ended up googling an answer. Basically, I'm an idiot, and all spells are cast verbally via a connected microphone. This is the first time I've encountered a mechanic that solely relies on voice commands, which is not to say this is wholly unique, but from my personal experience it was unique enough to warrant hearty skepticism. But let me report that the first time I tried to panic cast a spell on cooldown, I felt so foolish, and for the briefest, most fleeting moment was having what I can only describe as pure, unadulterated fun. On top of the Chaos Harbinger spell shouting, monster evading, roguelite maximizing, YapYap also features my beloved retro 3D nostalgia clouded PS1 HDified graphic style. As I make more videos, I encounter more games in this graphical style, and I have yet to tire of it. That day may soon arrive, but for now, fuck it, we ball, these graphics are sick as hell. I definitely tired of the retro 2D side-scroller boom that John Blow blew all over us with Braid and Phil Fish killed with Fez much sooner than this style, but never quote me on my feelings on anything. I'm a live wire, baby, and I will retain the right to change my mind about stuff if it does not matter, especially in the case of retro-inspired 3D graphical interfaces. Single-player verdict? Actually goated. Who needs friends with games like this? I had a uniquely profound emotional moment with RV there yet. I bet that wasn't what you were expecting to hear, because I have this weird cynicism forward insistent feeling that the typical critical evaluation of RV there yet does not feature the words profound or emotional at any point for any reason. But here I am, staring sullenly into the parking lot's distance, observing the way streetlights reflect stark against summer air and introspecting with venom-tinged cursed recollection the way things once were. I'm sure that I had this profound emotional experience because I was in a profound and emotional mood. So you seek, so you shall find. White bear, the round peg must enter the round hole. It's 2003 and I'm a child who is capable of committing moments to memory, but not so old as to act on meaningful impulse. My mother is too smart for her own good, which means she vastly underestimates everybody around her at all times. The simultaneous benefit and drawback of this egoistic worldview is that each idea quickly morphs into a full-blown harebrained scheme. My mother's schemes took all sorts of forms over the years, but none odder than when she began constructing her own greenhouse. Why, how, other pertinent questions you may have are fully lost to time immemorial. After all, I was too small and my brain was yet to grow its own hair. When the scheming started, she laser-focused on the task at hand and micro-optimized and moved with intentionality to reach her perceived notion of the endgame. Through this process of optimization, my mother discovered a consumer show for greenhouse enthusiasts occurring in the heart of Colorado, USA. My brittle memory wants to say Denver specifically, but treat that city with skepticism. In hindsight, this event seems even more surreal than it did in the moment. After all, the things I most associate with Denver are the worst day of Peyton Manning's life and the unyielding, frigid, dangerous to plants and wildlife cold. Colorado was neither close nor far. It sat in an awkward middle ground between flying necessity and driving reality, neither option more correct than the other. So of course the wrong choice was made. My mother's late 90s issue SUV was loaded as much as could be with the intentions to fit 4 human beings, luggage, and still leave space for whatever photosynthetic odds and ends piqued my mother's interest. We huddled our sorry masses in one-way chairs and set upon the path. My only brother at the time and I played Pokemon on our Game Boys, Red Magic Treehouse and Ralph S. Mouse, and we attempted to play a minuscule version of checkers that made use of futuristic magnetic technology, but thankfully we remembered an inalienable truth, that checkers is a terrible game, even for children. I fell asleep a few hours into the trip after each small task wore thin on my already frayed patience. I woke up to yelling, so much yelling. I don't think I'd ever heard so much yelling, and let me tell you, my household wasn't happy. I knew yelling. I knew the way my parents' voices hung in the air, the way punctuated silences demand maximum attention to the feelings conveyed. I knew the X's and O's, I knew the game theory that propped these fits up, and the best ways to handle oneself in the face of pure fury. But this was different. There was a certain type of actionable yet distant energy in each word exchanged. There were stakes that, unbeknownst to me, were never present before. The twisting mountain roads, once stunning and beautiful, were completely masked by a sea of black, perfect night. The headlights, dim as they were, still cut a clear vision of a wall of thick, obscuring snow. I had never seen anything like it, and have never felt such fear. The SUV slipped. The SUV, it slid. My dad, he yelled. My mom, she screamed. My only brother and I sat in silence, passengers to someone else's fate. Us folks ain't from no places that witness winter in its full form. A light dashing of sleet maybe, the thinnest layer of ice, but nothing like this. God, how could anybody deal with this? Who knows how long it lasted? If you told me 5 minutes, I would concur. If you told me 5 years, I would do the same. Time doesn't move when a person is that scared. Somehow, someway, somebody navigated the treachery of God's climate warfare and we arrived somewhere in Colorado. We attended the plant-related trade show. I saw so many beautiful things. I'd never do it again. Actually, what I meant to say is that RV There Yet is a really cool game about carefully navigating an RV through difficult environmental puzzles. Single-player verdict, challenging but doable, requires patience and time. Honestly, I'm surprised and impressed. For the most part, these friendslop games are still quite fun and interesting even as single-player experiences. Is this optimal? Probably not, but I'm confident that slop is definitely not a word I would use to describe what I played. Maybe next time around I'll stop being so damn contrarian about everything and review these games as their full-fledged intended multiplayer cooperative experiences. But knowing the way my foible-ridden brain functions, the next video will be about something crazy, like spreadsheets. Or farming simulator, so who knows? I certainly don't. Waka waka, where's the beef? Happy belated Mother's Day, you freaks. Thank you for watching that video. It always means a lot when y'all engage with my creative endeavors. I'm looking for recommendations, preferably for weird little games. However, if it's a large game, well, who doesn't like them large on occasion? If you're interested in some of my other uploads, there's a bunch of cool stuff on the channel. YouTube is going to go ahead and show you at the end of this segment some videos it recommends for you. YouTube knows everything you've ever watched. I don't, so hopefully it gets pretty close. If it doesn't, swing by the channel page and take a look. If you're interested in sticking around for more cool videos, I would appreciate it. Expect something here in the next few weeks. Okay, have a great day. Again, check out the channel page, leave your game recommendations below, and I'll check you next time. Goodbye.